Education Reform Act. Notice of this meeting was published by posted on the Township website and the location designated for such notices. Accompanying the agenda is also posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and as a courtesy, also posted on the Township website. Please join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't have anything under agenda review other than we are not having a closed session.
We have a roll call, please.
Bellin?
Here.
Fitting?
Here.
Clear? Enderby? Deal?
Here. All right, the announcements. Please turn your cell phones off during the meeting, and that includes during any of the public sessions as well. We ask you to sign up for e-alerts, emergency alerts at www.westamwelltwp.org. Summer hours start July 1st, and the municipal offices will be open Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and closed on Fridays in July and August. Municipal offices will be closed on Monday, July 6th for the 4th of July holiday. There's only one township committee meeting in July, and that is July 15th. July 1st meeting has been canceled. And continuing on our new public input session policy, we are having 5 minutes. Kindly restrict your comments to 5 minutes per person, 1 per public input session. We have a very busy agenda tonight. We'll be discussing the budget, so kindly keep your comments to the 5 minute limit. Okay, so first on the agenda is the minutes. First, we're looking at the regular meeting, May 20th. Are there any comments, questions, corrections?
I had some corrections that I did with Maria last time, and since we tabled it, I got to do one that.
I did, yeah, because I thought there was going to be others. So.
Yeah, I apologize. I asked to move them, and I did review them. I think there's a few things missing, but I don't think it's anything substantial. So
There are a few corrections I'd like to make that just clarify things, and I could just send you my copy. And
Are they substantive that can change something?
they're just clarifications. They don't change the meaning of anything. For example,
If you wouldn't mind just saying that so we can approve them as amended.
oh, all right. So, page 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, paragraph 1, mayors, mayors is apostrophe S, it should not have an apostrophe. And I just suggested that believe in that same sentence, believe your statement should say Mayor Deal's statement. And then the next paragraph, Dave Bowen came forward, not forwarded. And then the next page, page 4, the first paragraph, in the second line, express full support for, and remove B for West Amwell's construction office. And then page 13, just clarification on the paragraph below Maria Andrews, Township Clerk, under that resolution 79/2026. That first paragraph, the very last line.
Wait, I'm sorry, what page are you on?
They're page 13.
Okay.
It's 3 paragraphs above the resolution 2026. The last line. Interested in interning he, I would like to say CFO Sub, is recommending Mr. Chan be hired. So 2 changes there, just to clarify.
I actually, sorry to interrupt, but I do have it. I believe in that same paragraph that you explained that changes in the finance office, the staff, the reconciliation of bank statements came up as a problem. They hadn't been neglected since the change. They came up as a problem prior to
Yes, these are prior,
Yes, so it wasn't that it has been neglected since the office changed hands.
correct.
Okay, so if we could correct that, please.
So,
So explain that the changes in the, that prior to the changes in the finance office staff, the reconciliation of the bank statements was neglected.
And that was determined by the auditors when they came,
Yes.
that there were some issues with the bank reconciliations that they needed to be fixed.
Okay, and then, page 15, another clarification, the very last paragraph, administrative, former township attorney's firm, we just added Floria Law Firm, just to confirm that that's who we're talking about. And then the very last page, the second paragraph, PFOs, should be PFAs.
wait, where are you?
Page 16, the second paragraph, first line, update on the PFAs instead of PFOs.
The very end, second paragraph toward the end of the top line, second paragraph.
So you want it to be PF,
AS.
PFAS is the correct abbreviation.
Are there any more changes, corrections? If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion as amended.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Okay. Minutes of the regular meeting have been approved. Now, we can move to the minutes of the closed session for May 20th. There are two brief pages of minutes. Shall we do individually for the first one, which is about the potential litigation? Any questions, corrections?
no,
Not going to have a motion to approve the closed minutes of May 2nd, May 20th of potential litigation.
I'll say.
All in favor? And the second closed session minutes for shared service contracts on May 20th. Any questions or corrections? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We have just today received the minutes for June 4th. I would like to suggest we table those minutes.
Yeah, I have a lot of corrections.
Okay. I myself didn't have time enough to review it. So if that's okay with everyone, I'd like to table those minutes. Fine. All right, council report, is there any update on any litigation? And do we have any reports from department heads? All right, moving on. Standing committee reports. We have set up open space committee meeting minutes to approve for the posting. Are there any questions anyone have? And I know Mr. Pratt said he's going to be here tonight. But if not, can we have a motion to approve moving on for the posting?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
Reports from any of the other standing committees? We had a finance committee meeting.
We did on Sunday, the 14th. We don't have minutes for it yet. We did have a finance committee meeting Sunday evening, 14th, to go over the budget.
And I believe there were further meetings scheduled. We have another one scheduled in July after the budget has been passed. Correct.
So I think we'll probably have a couple of them.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Which would be to discuss the capital and the capital funding requirements of the borough for next year and future years. The budget has not have any changes as of now.
And to establish some asset inventory.
Yes,
Records.
yes.
Parks Recreation, do we have anybody from historic? So Parks Recreation,
No update, we're still getting our prices in for the bids. But yeah, we'll be this month, I haven't set anything up, so to set something up for that.
we do have at least one bid that we're gonna move tonight, correct?
Well, I believe that Brian Warwick was going to maybe issue this, I think, man, at that table, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. Land use board, do you have a report here?
Evening. Couple of things. So we had a very long meeting last night. I think we walked out of the building at 11:56. It was primarily doing an application. But we did, after 11, manage to get through some of the discussion items we had with the professionals who were at the meeting last night. Just to go through some of the agenda items and give a very high level of discussion. One was a potential regional planning grant. I think you have this on your agenda for tonight for discussion. I have some concerns about this, which I raised at the board last night, and I just want to make you all aware of them. I understand from Mayor Deal, this has gone through legal review, and she feels that the risks outweigh the rewards. But I just would caution the committee to be careful about accepting HUD funding, because that's where these New Jersey resiliency grants are coming from. And we've seen with the affordably furthering fair housing regulations that were put in during the Obama and Biden administrations and then repealed under both Trump administrations, that there can be some onerous strings attached to accepting HUD funding. The other thing is that I'm concerned about is that DEP provides all the funding, which I guess is good in a way because the township's not putting in any money. However, DEP selects consultants. And if you read Lamberville's plan, the primary consultant they selected is in Denmark. And so like all the photos for like their stormwater management areas are from Denmark. And then you turn the page, so this is sample, and you turn the page and it has a picture of West Amwell. It's got this property incorrectly listed as owned by the state of New Jersey. It's got the former water company property incorrectly listed as owned by the township, stating these are potential areas where, stormwater mitigation may be done in the future to help Lamberville. So, to be clear, I'm perfectly in favor of regional planning. I've always supported open space acquisition to make sure that we help our neighbors downstream. At the same time, I just want to make sure the committee is aware of these concerns and you take steps to try to at least get an American company and make sure that any photos that we get in this plan are actually from the township and not from a different continent. And if you look at the company's profile, they got a lot of stuff, as you would expect from a European company, talking about the Paris Climate Accords, and the UN, and a lot of other things, which I don't think are necessarily in line with where we are as a township. Moving on to the next item, we had a discussion regarding data centers. Back in February, when I had asked our planner about this, she felt we weren't at risk because we had language indicating that that we don't explicitly allow it, but I've subsequently become aware that it is actually on our zoning chart as permitted use in the commercial zones. So the board discussed it last night. We are in favor of doing something with this. We had Delaware Townships recently adopted ordinance in our packets, and Mr. Banish, who was there last night, indicated that they had a template that we can use, so we're going to look at that next month. We also briefly talked about talking about putting the data centers in space so that they don't have water and cooling needs, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. For the applicable standards for agricultural structures, just it's the same status as last time. I talked to Paul Hunt, who's our ag advisory chair, on Sunday. He's busy planning, so they haven't had time to have the meeting yet. I told them I'm happy to meet with them and go over, if they wanted, what their thoughts were based on SADC legal. I will follow up with Rachel and just let her know that we're still discussing it internally, so she's not wondering what's going on. And we had a discussion about the proposed amendment to try to address the the chicken issue. Board gave some feedback, so I think the subcommittee is going to go back and try to incorporate some of that. And then we also had a discussion on our draft bylaws, as I previously reported, when the boards were merged, the bylaws were never merged, so there was a separate set of zoning board bylaws and a separate set of planning board bylaws, but we're trying to put them all together in one model. And our attorney had recommended a model set of bylaws from a book called the Cox Book, which we now have a draft of, but we need to make some changes to it to reflect the way we actually do things. For example, we don't assign docket numbers to individual cases. So I'm hoping we'll have a final draft by next month if everything works out okay. That's all I had. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Campus advisory, we're going to go over that one in the second item on the agenda. Technology committee?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I just see, but I see Joe.
I guess that's my report, thank you.
However, technology.
All righty. I've been asked to talk about the website tonight, and so don't shoot the messenger. We went live on June 2nd. I guess to give a little bit of history, why did we actually do this? Because our website provider, which is a company called Civic Plus, was updating their back end of the equipment because they were changing their stuff. We had to change our stuff. It's an upgrade as far as they're concerned, and the other thing is it will also make our site become more ADA compliant, or will become ADA compliant. And that's the reason when you look at it, everything's green. It's got something to do with the ADA. Civics Plus is a very large presence in New Jersey. It's not like there's some company that's fly by night. Just around here, they've got East Amwell, they've got the Hunter County Commissioners. Even the League of Municipalities website is hosted by Civics Plus. So it's not like they're fly-by-night or anything. We had our division managers work on everything to make sure that we gave them a link to the new site to make sure that everything was brought over correctly. We did find quite a bit of things that when they converted from the old website to the new website, it didn't convert correctly. We do know that, and we've been trying our darndest to actually find these mistakes and work on them and fix them. The Google search question has arisen. I finally got something from them. It's an answer. They've given us some sort of a program to run if we want to. I started reading it. It's making my hair hurt. So,
You are helpful in that area, will help, because it is an issue that.
you heard that. You heard that now.
I will.
That's great, thank you.
So we're doing that as much as we can. They're also telling us that that Google will catch up with it eventually. One thing I was thinking of is possibly we can throw a link to the old website on the new website if somebody wanted to see something that was on the old website. That's an idea there. The next project that we've got actually going on will be the live stream, and that was part of the original plan or question with Civics Plus as to what we needed to do to make the live stream happen. So now that the website is up, and once we get it to the point we're happy with it, we're going to move on to the next project. Training of employees will be happening by the end of the summer. They will be able to maintain their own pages, and I'm very willing to take questions if anybody has any.
Thank you.
Book little allergy, so it goes.
John, did you want to give a
I'm a little bit unprepared here tonight because I just come from the job, so I don't have all my paperwork. But I can just tell you this, that open space is moving forward with some projects. and we're not gonna meet again until September. There you go.
That was your shortest.
That was the shortest one I've ever done.
And environmental, I can skip over that.
I didn't bring my paperwork, so if you want to enlighten them on a few things.
Hi, I'm Joel Coyne, Chair of West Amwell Environmental Commission. Just a couple of things, and first, regarding the regional resilient grant and strategies. Yeah, this is a tricky one because it's a great opportunity, but we have to weigh the consequences. So I just want to, we were asked for our involvement. So I just wanted to update the committee on the progress. We've delivered a strategic memorandum to the Mayor Deal outlining our recommendations for these funds. Rather than focusing on standard passive infrastructure fixes, our approach leverages West Amwell's natural ecosystem assets to get the most value out of this funding. Specifically, we are prioritizing integrated.
Could you please keep it down the back so everyone can hear? Thank you.
Specifically, we are prioritizing integrated wildfire defenses through targeted forest and canopy management, alongside active stormwater control along our critical stream corridors. As we all know, the forest has been somewhat decimated by the emerald ash borer, and it also creates fire hazards. We have to be very mindful of how we manage the forest area. So we see this grant as a vital tool to harden our municipal defenses and secure against severe weather without placing a financial burden on the taxpayers. Bottom line, the climate is changing. It's getting more extreme. We're going to have more extreme events, more droughts, more floods. And what we need to do is be cognizant of this fact and prepare accordingly. Land preservation, I've been privileged to work with the Open Space Committee on 109-acre tract, 216 Rock Road West. We are actively advancing our coordination strategies to secure the permanent protection of this 109-acre tract, 216 Rock Road West. We're working closely with regional conservation partners and our Open Space Committee to build a strong ecological case for this parcel. Protecting this land isn't just about open space. It is a critical defensive measure to safeguard our local hydrology, protect vernal pools, and keep high-impact development of a highly sensitive landscape. This is the headwaters, one of the headwaters to the outlet Salton Creek. We walked it and got pretty muddy and full of thorns. It was great. It's one of the most critical properties because it has 3 tributaries, which are the headwaters to the outlet Salton Creek, which means whatever happens there impacts everything downstream. It's not just about protecting land, it's about green infrastructure. It's about creating the stability through leaving the natural environment in place, because the natural environment knows how to take care of things. On the stormwater management and aquifer protection aspect, we are continuing our work to strengthen the town's regulatory protections. We are currently refining local stormwater management regulations to ensure that they reflect the reality of modern runoff patterns rather than outdated engineering assumptions. In tandem with this, we are drafting a strategic aquifer and groundwater protection ordinance. I want to emphasize this ordinance is being designed with a pragmatic, low-burden approach. It strictly protects our shared groundwater from high-density impacts while ensuring our existing residents face no unnecessary financial or regulatory hurdles. If people are familiar with this town and our geology, we have what's called diabase, very hard rock diabase. And one of the reasons it's called the Sourlands is because it was sour land. No one could do much with the land. You couldn't farm it. It was basically farming rocks. And the soils were poor, and the aquifer was poor. And we have to understand that no matter what we do, hydrology will do its thing, nature will do its thing. No matter what we say, basically the natural infrastructure wins out in the long run. So we need to prepare for this. We need to protect our groundwater. We need to make sure that every ounce of water is used, infiltrated, cleansed, not washed off into the streams. Which brings me to, I just wanted to, if possible, bring John back up to talk about our detention basins, if he's willing to do that.
Yeah, sure, I mean, if you want to be part of it.
So just briefly, please.
So I know this is getting along, I know you like to
No, this is important.
So, we met with the DPW director, if that's where you want me to go with, and you and I.
Oh, just about the
Yeah,
basin.
and that's what you want to talk about.
About the report and the cut.
So Joel and I, and the DPW director, there's been some issues on how to maintain mowing part of it up there. So I met with the DPW director, we've got on course now where we're just supposed to mow the bowl, not, I'm sorry. We're not supposed to mow the bowl, we're supposed to mow everything else around. So we got that on track, so the bowl is gonna be left with high grass. Joel and I went out Saturday, we spent a couple hours checking on 3 hours, checking, I showed Joel all the structures out there and the basins and stuff. Joel brought up some points that we should be looking at on the waterway, the flow channels, where we need to slow that water down per DP codes that they're asking us to do. So that's going to take some work with the DPW to do. We're going to call, they're called checks. So you take like every 30 feet, you take a piece of that flow channel out and you put rock in there. That's to slow the water down so that you don't get that quick rush out. And
then
filtrate into the ground, keep the water in the bowl like it's supposed to now. So the theory has changed now. Before, like Joel and I talked, is to get the water off your property, out of the basin. Now we want to retain it, filter it, and hold it as long as we can so it doesn't affect people downstream. So we're moving towards that. And Joel, if you want to add more to it, I would let you, so.
Great. Well, it's really, I think it's great that we can work together, the Environmental Commission and Open Space, because we all have the same objectives and desired outcomes, and to be able to work connectively makes it so much easier to facilitate and achieve.
Exactly.
And just one more thing I want to add is to ensure that the community is aligned with these efforts. We are currently partnering with the Open Space Committee to launch, and we are in the process of a joint newsletter. And I want to thank Joan for having a large part of that, and I think that it's coming along very nicely. This publication will translate complex guidelines into practical neighborhood level insights, specifically helping residents navigate the new stormwater regulations on their own properties and offering actionable alternatives to heavy pesticide use. And in closing, I just want to say, the overarching goal of the Environmental Commission right now is proactive resilience. Proactive resilience. Whether through grants, land preservation, or updated ordinances, we are focused on protecting West Amwell's water, land, and financial health. Thank you, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much.
So let me just add, the next Environmental Commission meeting is July 2nd. The committee also expressed a lot of concern that they don't have a full board. A few people resigned. They also expressed they would like a nomination to bring Tommy up to a full board member as opposed to just an alternate. And they also asked if we could either make an announcement on the agenda or on the website. They have 2 openings. They presently have 5 members. The committee supports 7, and I believe we can even increase that, but they're looking for 2 more members.
We can definitely put that on the website.
Okay. Soliciting volunteers. I believe that's all of our committee reports now. So we have our 5-minute timer here now. Okay. And I'd like the motion, please, to open it to public comment. All in favor? Okay. Does anyone like to come up and make a comment?
Michael Spilly, Dewitt Road. So a few comments. We'll keep it brief. Thank you, Harry, on the update on the website. As I said, I'm willing to help out there. Google searches are going to take months and months to catch up, just so you know. There's mixed links there. But I'm glad things are improving. Congrats to Joel on being EC chair. I think he's already making a difference, and I'm glad he stepped up. Expect great things there. Last thing is the Hunterdon County Ag Dev Board minutes from the May meeting around, including Mr. Fitting's comments to the board. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but the entire thing, references West Amwell over and over again, West Amwell Township, in partnership with Green Acres, our community, our township. Goes on to talk about our zoning officer. Our zoning officer will gladly review and provide a zoning application. Going on talking about the historical record. This document's where Mr. Fitting pulled the records of residents illegally. Just pulled them on his own accord and then just presented them to the Ag Board. He goes on to talk about property taxes, and maybe they're in arrears, maybe they're not. He goes in and accuses zoning violations. And again, this is all his words, and this is up here too for people. He goes on and then he talks about permitting and farming, and at the end he threatens the Hunterdon County Ag Dev Board and says, we may have to change and more restrict our farming zoning because of this. And now, he says he was speaking as an individual, but he speaks over and over again as a township committeeman and as a land use board member. I forgot you're on the land use board. Land use board is very strict about what you can do and what you can't do. You cannot go before another board and start talking about township business, let alone zoning business and farming business. That's exactly what you did. You should be prosecuted for this. To be clear, you're basically going before other boards saying, I'm West Amwell Township, and then saying, all this stuff happened, which isn't even true. This is bad. This is really bad. As much as people talk about prior administrations, this is awful. And this is not just talking against township residents. This is targeting township residents. When you hear about weaponization of government, I hear that and it sounds like, yeah, it's a made-up politician. But you are weaponization of government against our township residents. You're pulling our records. Who wants their township records pulled by committeemen randomly for searches, to see if you're in violation of anything? Who wants that? Anybody here want that? This is a big problem.
Please keep comments to yourself.
This is a big problem. And I demand that you be suspended immediately from the land use board because you're putting the entire township in jeopardy. Because we're going to basically anything you've been involved in, attorneys can come back and they can sue the township because you have a predilection for going after people and you proved it. And on the Paleo farm, you're not banned from having anything to do with them. If you say one thing officially about their farm, you're screwed because you already showed your prejudice against them in front of the Hunterdon County Ag Board. You should be ashamed of yourself.
paperwork I want to put into record. One is my tax record, so everything that Mr. Spieley just said, the way Mr. Fitting got these records, was through the power of being a committeeman. What he did was, by email and proof right here, he reached out to Hunterdon County Ag Board by email with his committeeman Fitting tag on it and requested all of my information. He also went to each individual department as a committeeman, which we need, it is public record, but in order to do it as a layman, he has to have an Oprah record to be able to do so. I'm giving a copy of my tax record showing never delinquent or not paid. Here's a letter from the construction department saying I took every single permit intact, never even failed a single inspection. Here's a letter from the zoning department saying I'm in absolutely no violation, never have been, walked through my property, did a recent inspection, everything passed and is compliant. Here's a copy of my resolution from the Hunterdon County Ag Board of approval, which the council from the agricultural board specifically states that she believes that Mr. Fitting was acting as official capacity with West Amwell Township. All of the prior knowledge and the information he gathered being official committeeman, in order for them to give that, he presented himself to them to get this information, showing up there as a committeeman. Here is all of the open requests that I have, showing the emails from Mr. Fitting requesting my information to the tax office, everything like that. So I'd like to give this to Maria for the record, but what is even more concerning is the things that he accused me of that day. Being in the zoning violation, not having proper permits. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? A sitting member of our land use board is in a massive violation for over 17 years. You take notes, you should read them. There's a direct directions on how you're supposed to file for permits when you create an apartment, an illegal apartment above your building, which negates the COA housing for our township. It negates the additional tax revenue. What it did is it put tax revenue into your pocket to be able to subsidize your own tax while you screwed the rest of the township, okay? This is what it is. I spoke to the building department this morning. You are an absolute massive violation in multiple ways. I contacted Hunterdon County Health Department. Your septic system is only available for a 3-bedroom septic. You've been running a 4-bedroom septic for over 17 years. You're in a big problem. Again, with the land use board, the eye of the public, it's very, very important that the land use board is trustworthy. We are now having a person on our land use board that people who are supposed to go there and ask for permission to do things in their home for a person that doesn't have the clout or respect for our township as a city committeeman or a land use board member to even do it right in the first place. And here's the proof of it, guys. So anybody who says it's not here and it's not provable, it's all right here. Go to the construction department, ask for it, see if I'm lying, see if Mr. Fitting can get a letter from the construction department that he's in no violation, see if he can get a letter from the zoning department to see if he's not in any violation. He's in massive violation because a sitting member of our board attacked me, and he attacked me with stones. He lives in a glass house. He should look at himself before he goes and makes these statements. Yeah, taxes go back 6 years. He needs to be reassessed. I demand that he gets reassessed. I talked to the tax assessor. She's going to be looking into this. The max that we can go back is 6 years. COA fees. He robbed us. He robbed each and every person. We picked up his bill for him being able to have a tenant in that room for 17 years. I have a signed witness affidavit that was in his property 2 times, once at a party in 2013 and once in 2018 doing well repair work. Signed, sealed, notarized, affidavit. It's been there that long, ladies and gentlemen. This is who's sitting on our board. This is what our land use board represents. Somebody sitting on our land use board that you're going to, and nobody should bother rich no more. Just go do what you want to do.
Please.
Everybody should just go build whatever you want to build on your house, because the guidelines for this city that's representing our township, this is what they do. He had a zoning approval. He had one zoning approval. That's the problem. He had one zoning approval. After a zoning approval, there's directions that he should read the notes on that specifically states how you're supposed to go about in order to achieve what he wants to have there. He knew he didn't have the rights to be able to do it because of the septic system being a 3-bedroom, and rather than take the extra money and create a bigger septic to do so, he violated it and he hid it from all of us. But yet, it came to light, because evil always comes to light. One more thing. During the time of his zoning approval, his father-in-law, Corboy, was the mayor. So little connection there, that he got all this pushed through while his father-in-law, Corboy, was the mayor. It all got pushed through. Also, the same person going after farmers for their rights to be able to remove woodlot management program
Thank you
for their
your
tax
comments.
purposes.
Thank you.
James Galley, 201 Jackson Street, West Amwell. I believe this board should vote to suspend committeeman Fitting until there's been a thorough investigation into his conduct.
Yeah.
And as it's taking place.
Please, we can't
And-
hear.
And I believe that the land use board, Sean is here this evening, should do the same. He should suspend him, he should not be allowed to sit on that board until there's been a thorough investigation. This committee, as well as the land use board committee and their attorneys, should look into this. He should be removed until it can be proved or disproved that he acted the way he did. The facts, as it's been presented, are damning, and I really think this community is not pleased with having someone up here representing them acting in this manner. I believe that the residents deserve better than that. As far as the, I know you guys are going to have an open, are you going to have an open session for the budget discussion afterwards? Okay, great. I'll leave it at that for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The clock got reset.
I'm working on
There
it.
you go, okay. Just let you know.
Okay, Gail Burley, I'm the municipal tax collector. I'm also the manager of the construction and the zoning office. I am here tonight, though, to read a prepared statement from my office as the tax collector. The statement was provided to the state. It has been reviewed, vetted, and it's factual. So I'd like to read it into the record. I as well have copies for all of you, and I'd like to give it to Maria for the minutes. So as the township tax collector, and I'm here actually to discuss the draft resolution that's on the agenda this evening. It's draft resolution 87-2026. So as the tax collector, I feel compelled to advise the mayor and the township committee that I have not identified any error in the calculation, posting, or collection of the interest associated with this property. Based upon my review of the tax account, the payment was received after the expiration of the applicable grace period, and interest was properly assessed and collected pursuant to NJSA 54:4-67. To date, I have not been provided with any documents, legal opinion, court order, or statutory authority supporting the proposed adjustment or refund. I would also further note that despite being the statutory officer of the municipality, responsible for the collection, accounting, and reporting of property tax payments and delinquent interest, I was not consulted regarding the proposed refund, nor was I asked to review the account for accuracy prior to preparation and inclusion of the draft resolution 87-2026. My awareness of this proposed action only arose upon reviewing the published agenda. Had I been consulted, I would have identified no error in the collection of the interest, and that I am unaware of any legal basis that supports the proposed refund. So pursuant to NJSA 54:4-67, municipalities are required to charge and collect interest on delinquent property taxes. Once the statutory grace period has expired, interest accrues by the operation of law and becomes due and payable as part of the tax obligation. The tax collector is obligated to collect such interest in accordance with the statute and the interest rate established by resolution by the governing body. Delinquent interest, which has properly accrued under the statute, is not discretionary and it may not be waived or refunded absent a specific legal basis. Neither the tax collector nor the governing body possesses authority to disregard statutory requirements. Further approving a refund of a properly collected delinquent interest may create inconsistent treatment among the taxpayers and expose the township to questions regarding the selective forgiveness of statutory obligations. Such action could also result in the expenditure of public funds without a clearly articulated legal basis. I would further note that NJSA 54:4-99, which is the statute cited on the resolution you have before you, does not appear to be applicable to the circumstances present herein. That statute addresses correction of errors involving tax assessments, abatements, exemptions, and other tax-related adjustments. The matter currently before the Township Committee this evening does not involve any assessment error or adjustment to the tax levy. Rather, it concerns the collection of statutory interest on a delinquent property tax payment pursuant to NJSA 54:4-67. Accordingly, the statute cited does not provide legal authority for the adjustment or the refund assessed and collected as delinquent tax interest. Additionally, I am concerned about the proposed refund amount, which is $174.05. This may not accurately represent delinquent interest charged in connection with the subject property. Based upon...
Can you submit that to Maria, please?
I will. So based upon my review of the account records, the referenced amount includes not only delinquent interest attributable to the current payment, but it also includes interest previously assessed during the tax year 2025, together with convenience and transaction fees charged by a third-party payment processor. Those transaction fees were not collected by, retained by, or remitted to this township, but rather were charged directly by the third-party vendor as a condition of the taxpayer's selected payment method. As such, the proposed refund amount appears to include charges that were neither delinquent interest or subject to the transaction, nor municipal revenue that was received by this township. So prior to any consideration of draft resolution 87-2026, I respectfully request that the township attorney provide a written legal opinion identifying the statutory authority supporting the proposed refund and confirm the accuracy of the amount proposed to be refunded. I also respect that the mayor and the township committee obtain and place on the record the legal authority supporting the proposed refund before taking any action. In the absence of any such authority, it is my professional recommendation that this resolution not be adopted this evening. I'm submitting the memorandum to ensure that the governing body is fully informed as to the tax collector's statutory responsibilities and concerns prior to consideration of that proposed resolution this evening.
Thank you. Please give it to Maria. Appreciate it.
I didn't have some questions about, do you want to wait till we get to the resolution?
Yes, I think at this point we will table that.
You want to table it?
Yeah.
I still have a couple questions, but we can talk.
We'll table it for the discussion and we'll consider the review of the attorney. Thank you, appreciate it.
Maria, will you forward it to the CCs? One needs to go to the auditor as well. Thank you.
Joe Blair, Barry Road. I want to know what's going to happen with this apartment now that the township knows about it. Is it going to be red tagged We don't know if it's stuff the fire could, if it catches on fire, if somebody gets hurt, the township is gonna be responsible for this now. So what's gonna happen here? There's people still living in the apartment, they should be red tagged, and it should not be legal right now to have somebody living there. It's a risk, it's a fire risk, we don't know anything about it. There was no inspections done, nothing.
Can't comment on this, that's in the hands of the construction department, I believe.
Oh, so nothing's gonna be done with that?
I can't answer that question,
How come?
because that is not my area of expertise.
You're the mayor. You're in charge of everything. Right?
That is in purview of the construction department at this point. Construction
So
is in-
I should go to the construction department, is what you're saying, and file a complaint, or what do we do? Go to the state? You're just gonna allow it to go on?
Those are the officials that are responsible for.
How about you? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna shut it down? No comment? No comment? No, I wouldn't get it.
Any other comments from public? Yeah, motion to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sean Pfeiffer, 14 Steinmeier Road. First of all, don't like the clock. I know why it's here, but I'm a little sad about it. Honestly, I've been thinking a lot about this the last couple of weeks and reflecting on how things have changed from when I first started coming to meetings 20 years ago to now. People always disagree with each other. Most of the time, you didn't disagree with somebody 100% of the time, you didn't agree with them 100% of the time. Somewhere along the line, as a township, I think a lot of us lost empathy. I think we need to spend more time understanding where other people are coming from. You know, all year I've been talking about trying to work with the agricultural community. I brought up the SADC mediation program here. And again, I'm just speaking for myself. I do think there was an opportunity lost here to just sit down and have a conversation with the landowner about what concerns the township may have had. I think all 5 members here were elected in their own right. I think everybody should have been included. I know Mr. Bellamy had said we were going to reach out to the SADC at one point. We didn't have an opportunity to do it. But you know, before this thing escalated, and I can cite so many other cases over the last couple of years, Mr. Raswater, Mr. Williams, everybody is trying to score points on each other, and people aren't just sitting down and trying to figure out how to move forward. So anyway, I just thought I needed to say that. To respond to Mr. Cowley, my understanding is the Land Use Board doesn't have any authority with respect to suspending members. That's entirely up to the governing body. It's not in our jurisdiction or authority or the appointing authority. You're also a budgetary authority, so I just would mention that for the legal. Your counsel, if you disagree with me, you can talk about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much. We have no other further comments. May I have a motion to close open session? May I have a second? All in favor? Thank you. All right, moving on. To our public hearing on ordinances. Public hearing for ordinance number 08/2026, an ordinance for the calendar year 2026 to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a PAC bank. This is the first of our budgetary ordinances for this evening. I'll open it up to questions or comments. CFO, if you have any
Nope, this is just the cap bank that's allowed by the state that allows us to set the cap at 3.5%.
Any questions from the public at this point?
James Kelly, 201 Jackson Street. So the cap bank is set at 3.5%. What was
Yes.
it set at last year
3.5%.
and the year before that?
I believe it was also 3.5%.
And what is that number total?
I don't-
So the cap bank is set, what is that amount? If it's 3.5%, what is that number?
I don't know the exact number in front of me right now, but it's 3.5% of the prior budgets.
Of the prior budget?
Of the probations, yes.
So is that an increase?
Yes.
Okay. And what is, but you don't know the dollar amount?
No, I don't have the dollar amount in front of me.
Okay, so when would we get that?
That's public, it's on the website. So anytime you look at the budget, the cap bank is established on the
So
budget.
is it in
of
the budget paperwork that you have there?
For the
It's actually-
current year.
It's in the resolution.
Right.
Is it in the resolution there, the amount?
Of this year's,
Yes.
For this year?
yes.
Yeah, but not for the previous year?
No, that would be in the previous years.
Very good. Thank you.
No problem.
There are no other public questions. Can I have a motion to approve ordinance number 08, 2026? Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Bell?
Aye.
Fitting?
Aye.
Moyer?
Yes.
Vanderbeek? Deal.
Aye. Next on our agenda is the public hearing of the 2026 budget. Marie, do we do the budget self-exam first, or do we?
You do the first.
So we have then under consideration resolution number 82, 2026, which is self-examination of the budget resolution, which we're required to do along with the public hearing about the budget for the municipality. And basically this says that we certify that we have calculated things correctly pursuant to each law and requirement as to what the budget has as its contents and is in the correct form as required by the state.
Yes.
Any questions, comments about this?
So, I don't know, it'd be nice to be simple page numbers, but sheet 10.
This is the self-exam first. that we're talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Resolution 82, 2026.
Yeah.
If there are no questions about that, we have a motion to approve the self-examination resolution 82, 2026.
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second, please? Second. Roll call, please.
Bell?
Aye.
Fitting?
Aye.
Moyer?
Yes.
Vanderbeek? Deal.
Aye. Then, Peter, what did we do this,
We opened the public hearing for the 2026 budget.
okay, and then we'll do the refund bond ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we are now open to opening for public hearing of the 2026 budget for West Amwell Township. I believe there were copies put in the back.
Yes, there's copies back there, it looks like this.
Yeah, for anyone who was interested in it, and if you had time to pick one up the last meeting and time to study between then and now. Yes, I would, yeah. I wanted to also make a brief statement about what we're talking about. So, in January 1st, basically, we inherited this budget, was already pretty much largely in place. And over the past 6 months, we have been trying and focusing on stabilizing the township operations and putting the right professionals in place to serve our community. Before I took office, the CFO announced her departure. Her assistant left shortly after. At the same time, our DPW had been without a director for nearly 3 years. and is effectively being managed remotely by our township engineer. Fire prevention and fire official services have been neglected for years, and that created potential risks to resident safety and exposed the township to possible state violations and fines. These challenges have been compounded by circumstances outside of our control. Those include health insurance costs, which have gone up 33%. Interest rates on our existing township have gone up. Yes, we're paying more interest than had been anticipated. We've also been experiencing the impact of additional wage, benefit, and equipment costs associated with the police department and with all of our operations. Faced with all these realities, we made the decision to invest in professionals, leadership necessary to ensure that our services operate efficiently. We hired a new CFO, a new director of public works, and a fire official. And these new hires are already delivering results for our township residents. Our new CFO immediately ensured that our township employees were paid accurately and on time. About, I would think it's maybe 3 days after you
Yes.
walked into this door for this first time. And in fact, the combined cost of the new CFO's salary, a promotion raise to our finance clerk, and a temporary bank reconciliation clerk is still less than what we were paying our former CFO and our assistant treasurer. So not only have we shifted functions, we have accommodated with the existing staff, and we are spending less than we are on the 2 people that we had on board before. Our new director of public works has already identified opportunities to reduce costs and improve efficiency. He is working with the township CFO on capital budget planning for our DPW. We are sorely in need of a lot of planning and equipment upgrades and replacements. We are fixing things that are long past their useful lifetime. Our fire official has brought the township into compliance with the Department of Community Affairs and produced the first activity report in years. And most importantly, we have a clear understanding of what these essential services are costing us and how we're going to have to plan our future budgets. Now, as a result of all these budget pressures, municipal taxes for the average homeowner will increase by approximately $88 in 2026, which is about $7.35 per month, based on the average assessed property of $480,000. I understand that no tax increase is welcome. And as mayor, I'm committed to doing everything possible to maximize the revenues from sources other than property taxes. We're pursuing grants, we're pursuing shared service opportunities, and we're working with government and municipal partners to deliver services as efficiently as possible. And we're working directly with the next budget to see how we can replenish our capital fund and make sure that we are building back our fund balance, which is also known as surplus. This all does not happen overnight. It requires careful planning, communication, and making hard decisions. We've begun that work, and it's what we will continue to pursue on behalf of every resident in West Amwell. We appreciate your patience and your trust, and understand that you place a lot of responsibility in our hands, and we'll work to earn that respect and trust. So there's a lot we have been working on in addition to not only money saving staff. We have withdrawn from expensive, costly lawsuits, suing the state over tier A stormwater, suing the state over affordable housing. We have withdrawn from that. We settled a third lawsuit with residents. We are working on a fourth. And we are endeavoring to do everything possible to keep from engaging in litigation which wastes the taxpayers' money. So there's a lot that's been happening in the background, and there's a lot more to be done. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that there are a lot of things happening that you may not understand are affecting our budget and the work we have been putting in to reduce the impact on you. That being said, now we would like to go through the budget and entertain any other questions. So I know that Gary, you had some remarks you wanted to make about our discussion on Sunday, and
Sure, and I don't want to steal any thunder from
Not at all.
the CFO. I think if you take a look at the budget, there's probably a few things that will stand out that you might have questions on, that a couple of these comments might help you understand. First is you'll notice that revenues are actually down a significant amount from last year's. Revenues are down roughly $1.3 million. And that's primarily due to grants that were received last year that were also associated with various public projects. So likewise, expenses are also down in the budget this year. Now, expenses aren't down as much as revenues are down. So expenses are down about $1 million. The difference is largely health insurance, as the mayor mentioned. In fact, there's close to $70,000 of health insurance that is above the permitted cap in terms of the cap calculation. So health insurance is just skyrocketed. One of the things the Township Committee will have to do, and we've already started some of that work, is looking at moving off of the state's plan and considering a private plan. Complicated though, because there are some employees that well, anyway, I'll leave it there. So the local purpose tax, you'll see, is actually up by about $250,000 from last year. The surplus is actually, so we had pretty good surplus last year, roughly $490,000. We're using $380,000 of that surplus in the budget this year, but surplus, we believe, will reach a comparable number at the end of this year. Capital reserves were also increased by $50,000. So we had $25,000 in capital reserves last year, now $75,000 in capital reserves. Valuation came in at $740.67 million for valuation of township properties. Last year was $710.1 million, and so that valuation is actually up about 4.3%. So significantly less than the increase we realized last year, and that's in large part, I think, one, the economy may be adjusting a little bit post-COVID, but we also had a couple of years where we did not have good update information from our tax assessor. The tax assessor's been catching up in that regard, so we're close to being valued at 100% as a result of the assessor's work. Peter, did you have any other summary comments?
No, he spoke perfectly about all that, and the only other thing is our debt service is up, which we were talking about. The interest expenses were up, and we had some of our bonds now have some premiums due. Premiums are like your mortgage, you pay some of the principal. For government financing, when you take out a note, financing, principal starts to become due 3 years after you start the note. So some of those notes are coming due, and that's what's causing the interest and that number to come up. So we were talking about refinancing to try to get a better rate. So one of the things that we're doing in conjunction with the upcoming note that we're going to be doing soon, that's next, the public hearing on refunding bond ordinance, we're going to be doing some borrowing to get us into a better situation. Now, the difficult question comes up in terms of how you want to do your long-term financing, and I'm working with our bond counsel on that as well, because in order to take long-term financing, you do what's called a redeeming bond. That's like a mortgage where you pay your principal and interest every month at a specific amount every month. then you cannot prepay your loans. So we can't pay more debt down, so we can't get our debt down faster. So that's the question where we want to stand is how much debt do we want to pay down faster and how much long-term financing we want. And we got to try to strike a balance that's good for everybody so we can pay down debt and reduce our interest and principal. Short-term financing tends to be more expensive because you have to renew every year, and you also have higher interest rates. So we're looking for that fine balance, and that's a lot of the calculation that we've been working on as well. On top of other projects that we want to do, like the road projects and some of the equipment that we need to buy. The equipment, currently, the issue is we're spending more money fixing it than we are using it. So at some point, we're better off just buying new equipment rather than throwing good money after bad. So that's another fine balance I'm working on with the DPW director, who's working very hard to try to save us money. So I think that a lot of that is in this budget as well. So we've tried to save money on repairs but spend money on capital, which will give us future savings because next year we won't have those repair costs. So it's a fine balance. This budget was very difficult because of the nuances and our cap limits. So, but
Plus, we had a $750,000 judgment against us.
That definitely didn't help.
We had to borrow.
Well, that's this refunding bond ordinance. That's
Refunding
coming up,
bond
right?
ordinance, correct.
But before we issue this bond, I'd like to talk about the other debt so that we only do one financing instead of multiple. But yes, thank you for that. That was excellent comments. You kind of said everything I want to say.
So, questions? Yes,
Bob?
Bob?
Yeah, all right, so, again, sheet 10, in relation to green medicine, right? So before we get, so first off, you have $115,000 anticipated this year. Now, it says here host community benefits. Now, the host agreement's $100,000 and then we have the revenue on top of it. So I would assume that number is the host and the revenue as well, but it states that, I just want to make sure. And then realized cash in 2025, you had $160,000. Now technically, on the books, they have a $100,000 host agreement, and then they had almost $70,000 in the revenue share that was generated last year, okay? Collectively, what they paid last year was $439,000 to this township. Now, some of that was back taxes and back payments from 24 and so on. So I don't know if you want to take that out, but collectively they paid us almost $440,000 last year. And I would assume that's where most of the surplus that we generated came from.
That's correct.
Okay. So, I mean, they're on pace to do better than last year. I think the revenue share is almost what it was whole last year already to date, I guess. So we're only adding, we're only showing on the books $115,000 from them, which I guess I'm comfortable with because anything we get further than that is good surplus. Okay, and I don't, you don't want to bump that number up in case we don't get it, and it's going to really affect the budget. So I'm comfortable with that. I just want everyone to know that we should have a big bump in our surplus again from green medicine this year. Right?
Well, I mean, your other comment there should probably be that even if you deducted some of the prior years' related activities and looked at the net amount for 2025, it actually represented 10% of what you would be raising as far as your local
Yes, it's an immense contribution to this, into this budget.
Isn't 10% of all the other property taxes?
10% of the total local amount raised. So the total local amount raised this year is 2.7 million. Last year was roughly 2.5. Right, so they would have generated roughly $250,000.
In addition to property tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's being conservative about the income is we're better off doing that.
Yes.
Simply
Yeah, I
because
see
we don't
that,
want to
and I
anticipate too
agree with
much.
that. I just wanted to note that, again, there should be, some surplus coming.
Yep, so we were anticipating that into the surplus, which is why the auditors had agreed that we could utilize more fund balance, knowing that the surplus would be coming. And utilize this fund balance helps keep our tax rates down. So that was one of the reasons why we did do that, because we knew that we could generate that fund balance from the revenue side.
Okay.
Thank you.
The question I have is in reference to our open space contribution. We generated, another $444,000 last year that went into open space. 426 last year. We're anticipating 444 this year. So now this fund balance is well over $1 million. And again, we all know it can only be spent on open space things. This was one of my big things last year. I was concerned about this fund growing to a point where we can't use this money. We weren't in agreement on how to handle that, but I think we were in agreement that we needed to change it, and it doesn't seem that we're doing that.
I think, well, go ahead.
So, part of what we spoke about earlier is a lot of that open space money is going to be used to do the catch basins and stormwater management as well. So, a good portion of that will start to be used towards that as well. And that was a great thing that came up from the DPW director, having talked with all the people of the environmental committee and everybody, and he came to me and said that's where the money could be used, including some of the machines that are going to help save us capital dollars that we could use the open space money for that as well. So there is some, and we can address it next year again, to say if you want to reduce the tax on the open space next year. But for now, we are expecting to use some of that money, and there are some other ideas on what we could use that money for as well.
What is the budget per se on this basin retention that we're going to use?
I think it was like 20-something thousand each.
Each basin?
Something like
Like that. You recall the numbers?
This is the first I heard of that. I didn't know we were changing the
Take
basin.
money out of your pocket.
I didn't realize we were changing the basins per se. I don't know what work there is, or you're saying catch basins.
Catch
That
basins.
mean
In the ground, right.
I have a question. How can you take open space money to repair a basin in your easement?
I don't know how that one works, but it's, open space would be utilized for anyone that would represent, would benefit the entire town.
We got tremendous, we had tremendous resistance, John, as you recall, in attempting to look at utilizing open space funds in that regard, so.
And that was my next thing, was last year, we wanted to use a portion of the money to buy some equipment. And Open Space came to us with a recommendation, and it was adamantly rejected by certain party members.
Right.
But now this year, we're okay with it?
Seems like it. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I think it was a question of the used versus new.
No.
No.
We use some of the money to go to machinery, 100%.
Right. I came to you with a brand new machine like I did previously, and I got beat up so bad that I refused to come to this meeting for the next 2 or 3 months. I was embarrassed
But we
before
have
this.
had a demonstration of
We
that.
have.
And we are looking to put that in the budget.
But now, we're all set. But I'm concerned about you taking money for catch basins. There's a difference. The basins, I can see, that's what we need to do. That's open space. But the basins, the individual catch basins, I think there's like 100 of them.
Yeah, there are none.
Right? I don't know how many's up there. But that's township property. That's your easement. Not, you can't keep robbing, I shouldn't use the word robbing, open space to cover the cost of maintaining the roads up there.
But we
Or
have
the
not
cover.
had an open space strategy meeting at all. And we have not
We're not
had.
approving that tonight. I'm just
Right.
asking, we are.
Well, I'm telling you, you should approve it. I don't see how you can even
No.
talk about it. It's not even, to me, legal.
Well, the only thing I'm questioning is we're still pumping a lot of money in that open space fund.
I agree.
Okay, we're not talking about what we're doing with the money
I'm
yet.
sorry, I got a little side.
I understand.
You got me riled up.
But I had questions on what,
I understand. I'm
you know,
sorry.
we're pumping this money in. Our CFO said he's got some plans to use some of this money, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around what these plans are.
So my question is, now you brought up the use of it, is it proper to use that money for catch basin work?
I guess we have to
Well, I
invest.
think that's
That's a,
right.
that's
That's a-
tangential.
that's
not budget
I don't even know
specific.
why we're even entertaining a discussion on that.
Well,
I may have misspoken, maybe it was basins, not catch basins, so but I was talking.
You're right, it could be two different things.
Right.
But then again, I don't know what you're gonna do to them.
Back to my question, I mean, are we budgeting using $400,000? How much are we budgeting using this year, roughly?
I don't have it, the open space budget, I don't have,
we have not gotten
Right.
through that at this point. We're scheduling something for John to go through what the total amount that's in there, what is in the budget, what is moved at the end of the year into the open space fund, because you only do that once a year, at the end of the year. So what is currently in the total of that account at this point is not the
Right.
full amount. And that's a question we need to go through with the open space chair. We need to have a plan for what that money may go to. We have to end up spending money on Rock Road West property in conjunction with those others. You know, that's a big property, and that's pretty good expense. We're looking at partnering with some other organizations.
So we're gonna share a lot of that expense with others.
Exactly.
We may not even put a dime into it, because Green Acres might fund the whole process, right?
We don't know at this point.
So we don't,
do need to-
but we're certainly not gonna spend
All right,
$400,000 on a piece of real
Let's
estate.
digress a second. Back to my original question, though. You know, it's damn near July. If we're gonna make an adjustment with this next year, we need to do so relatively quickly. And I believe your intent last year was to go out for a referendum to change this. Are we still looking at doing that? Is that the process we're looking at doing?
I think that is a very viable option at this point, as long as we make sure we get through the referendum, and we get through passing the budget, making sure where we are. Once we can start looking at our expenditures after the budget has been authorized, and we can start making sure we've got everything covered, I think, yes, we should discuss that.
We don't have a ton of time left, so.
No, but we have through August to put something,
The question has to be to marry it by the first of August.
Yeah.
right, well, I'm sorry. We have
We're
until
only meeting
August.
once in July.
And you're bidding, yeah.
We can do something and via email before then. And we have a meeting in July 15th.
Okay. All right, I'm just stating that I don't think you have as much time as you need, so I just want to make sure that's, because I'll be honest, if we go another year where we pump another $500,000 into that fund, we're not going to utilize that money, and we're not going to get it out, and it's going to be taxpayer money that we're handcuffed with.
Yeah, I understand. And I
It
think we
was
should
my
definitely
big
have-
issue last year, I didn't want to get in this situation, and I definitely don't want to continue.
I agree.
The last thing I have is on, it's sheet 15, which is a minor thing, I just got a question. Animal control, we don't have anything budgeted this year for that, are we getting rid of animal control?
No. That's coming out of the trust fund, right?
Yes, so for that line, I had to move it to the trust fund to help save us budget up, get us to the appropriations cap. So we're going to be funding it from the trust fund for this year. The animal trust.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that was because of budgetary restrictions. I would have kept it in otherwise, but I just needed money.
And there is money in the trust fund,
There is money in the trust fund.
and has not been spent for a while.
And have not been spent in quite some time, yes. And I went through that with the auditors as well. And they agreed we should use the trust fund.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing no other, I'd like to have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance. Budget ordinance.
Did anybody from the public have any? We never.
We're open.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But you guys are having a discussion, and we never had a chance to weigh in. We have to have an opportunity.
My
Yes.
apologies, my apologies. Would you like to have a motion to open for the public?
Motion.
Thank you. All in favor? My apologies, please come up and make your comments.
Mike Spillane, Hewitt Road. I just had one question. I was a little confused in your opening statement, Mayor. you're talking about rising interest rates causing issues, and then the CFO talked about, rebalancing, our bond obligations, things like that. Just so you know, I worked in fixed income for like 15 years, so I know the terminology. I'm just a little confused that there's a story of, changing principal and interest amounts, and then you were saying that interest was rising. I just want to get a clear view of what's really happening there.
So the interest rates on some of our notes were extremely low, but for short-term financing, it renews every year, and those interest rates are now going up. So the short-term rates have been going up, which is probably what the mayor was referring to in terms of the rising interest rates. For our long-term obligations, the
You're
interest
talking
rates...
about just one-year notes?
Yes, they're one-year notes. They're called bands, bond anticipation notes, that renews every year. After the third year, principal has to be paid with those notes. Some of those notes that were done 3 years ago now have principal payments due and higher interest rates. So that's why our bond obligations are higher this year than they were last year.
Yep.
In terms of the bond payments, those don't change. Those are called the self-redeeming bonds. It has a fixed interest rate and a fixed principal payment. So those things are the ones that don't change. The short-term notes are the ones that we were referring to when you said rising interest payments and principal payments, because after 3 years, those principal payments start becoming due.
Got it, okay. And then you're trying to basically rebalance the principal versus interest equation against the prepayment penalty, or not even being allowed.
Or being allowed to convert some of the short-term notes to long-term financing, which then would mean that we simply make a fixed payment over an extended period of time. Once that's done, I cannot prepay those notes, because as a bond holder, you want your bond payments. You don't want me to suddenly pay off your bond and say, oh, your bond is gone, right? So the short-term notes are the ones I'm allowed to pay off, and that's why we keep some of the short-term notes to keep paying debt down, and that reduces the overall debt of the town. So that's what we're referring to.
And these are all considered muni debt?
Yes, they're all tax exempt municipal
debt.
bonds. Right. Yes. No, we don't have a special debt right now that I know of.
Got it. Okay. That's my own question. Thank you.
Great. Public comment.
Jim Galley, 201 Jackson Street. I appreciate, Bob, you're bringing up a couple of those items of interest with respect to green medicine. As the community knows, members of this board were actively working against the Township Committee when the referendum with the state about having cannabis was approved, and we had a 68% approval rate in West Amwell Township. Myself on the committee at that time, we thought that this would be an opportunity to increase revenues in the township without burdening the residents. And it seems to me that it's finally starting to come to fruition, and yet we have our current committee members who've railed against it for years, trying to take credit for now moving this money around and helping with the budget. I think it's very rich. I think it's very rich of you, Robin, to suggest that that it was a bad thing before and now it's a good thing now. And there are people in here, you mentioned lawsuits. There were residents in here that were suing the township over the cannabis, and you supported that, and other members did here as well, so much so that they put their names on pieces of paper in terms of supporting those lawsuits. So I just want the community to know that you're against it and now you're for it, which means you don't really have to stand one way or the other. The objective behind sitting up there is that you make the decisions that are necessary at the time. And don't criticize those who've been in that seat prior because you didn't like it, okay? I'm out here in the public just like any other resident, and I have every right to come up and speak against those things that I see are a double standard that you now take for granted. With respect to the open space funds, I do think that it's incumbent upon the committee to listen to what John had to say with respect to how that money is used. Because we did have conversations a year or two ago with respect to trying to bring that open space money down. And again, Committeeman Hudson and Deal were against it. Can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. Okay, now all of a sudden you want to do it. So it's really, again, it's hypocritical. It's very hypocritical for you to go forward with that at this point saying, oh, it's okay, I wasn't for it then, now I'm for it. The same thing with the ability for this community to be able to deal with the storm drains when we were suing the state for the Tier A, Tier B, and you mentioned that, we have all these lawsuits. So for your position is to let the state run roughshod over the small communities. When that Tier B was switched to Tier A, the community might not be aware, they were basically designating West Amwell as an urban area. Now, not for nothing, I don't believe we're an urban area, and we had every right to consider that it shouldn't be looked at that way, and that's why we undertook that, along with, I believe, over 40 or 50 other communities that felt the same way, that the state wanted to treat us just like they would treat Trenton, Jersey City, Hoboken. That's not fair. And you mentioned that this savings we're going to receive from this not following through with the lawsuit. Okay, fine, there's going to be some savings there. But did you explain to the public what the additional costs are for us to go into Tier A? You didn't, because it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's nice that you could conveniently omit that without giving the public the full sense of what's going on. Again, you're here to explain to the public why the budget's the way it is. And you need to be forthright with them about how that money's coming forward and coming out of their pockets. Thank you.
Mr. Pfeiffer?
Sean Pfeiffer, 14 Steiners Road. I mentioned this last year. As you know, I was with the space chair for a while back. And, because our tax is a fixed rate and assessments have gone up over time, essentially bringing in about twice now what it was bringing in 15 years ago when I was on the committee. And at that time, we had a considerable amount of debt service because when the program first launched, there were a lot of projects in the pipeline, Fulton Farm, Steelwood Farm, Holcomb Farm. We had a lot of cost share, and the committee at the time felt that it was reasonable to budget that over 20 years and do bonding because future residents would benefit from it as well. My understanding at this point is all those debts have been paid off at this point. So I do support reducing the open space tax to an appropriate number, taking into account maintenance and whatever gentlemen in the committee have going forward. And I do share some of Mr. Dowling's concerns because I've been there, and I remember 15 years ago when, we had a plan and it was approved, and then next year, because there was a budget shortfall, a decision was made to start paying the Calton lawsuit debt out of the open space funds. I made the argument at the time, I understand this township's budget situation, but we should reduce the open space tax and increase the municipal tax so that we're not paying, lawsuit debt out of open space. It was legal because of the way the lawsuit settlement was worded, that part of the settlement the developer was buying open space, but it was not land that had any real development potential, and the development was still happening. So, I don't want to see that money get diverted. I think it's important that we be transparent. And if you do need to raise the municipal tax line, you should be reducing the open space tax line at the same time if you don't actually need that funding for projects. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Sean, for saying that. True.
Joel Point, Alderman Road. I just wanted to go back to the stormwater regs, and actually I think you're both right. Everybody's right, and everybody's wrong, because it's true that we should not be categorized in the same category as Union or Hoboken or Jersey City or urban areas. It's totally unfair. It's not right. It's unjust. It doesn't make sense. We're not that kind of town. But I think ultimately it would be pretty much almost certain loss to sue the state. And I think Mr. Kelly had said like 40 towns or something. I don't think there's many left. I'd like everyone to check. I think almost all of the towns have complied or are working on compliance. Please double check that. What I want is facts, real facts. It's like all these sides to every story, but let's get the facts straight. I'm almost sure, because I worked on this, I think there might have been one town left in Hunter County that was still suing. But please check. Please do check. 'Cause I don't want numbers to be thrown around recklessly. We're in a no-win situation. It's crazy. Why do we need to have a street sweeper come and sweep our streets? But we're obligated to do this. And if we don't do it, it'll be more punishing to us. There are monies available for this. We're taking advantage of that. We've already taken some monies, and we're already behind in our obligation. I do believe. We're trying to get to that point. So it's not that what's right or wrong, what's fair, it's actually not what's fair or not fair, really. And I am working, and I think we should all work, on lobbying the state, saying this is not fair. We have so much we provide. We provide clean air. We provide clean water. We provide green infrastructure. Where is our compensation for that? We are serving the public, protecting the environment, protecting the downstream towns. How come we're not getting credit for that? That's what we need to fight. That's how we have to win this.
Any more public comments?
Motion to close.
A second? All in favor? Now we can move on to taking action on this ordinance.
Yes. Motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'm sorry. Adopt the budget, we have a motion to adopt the budget, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Any roll call, please?
Bell.
Aye.
Denning.
Aye.
Square. Vanderbeek. Field.
Aye. And next we have public hearing on ordinance number 09/2026, refunding the bond ordinance of the Township of West Amwell and the County of Hunterdon, State of New Jersey, the Township, providing for, one, the refunding of an emergency temporary appropriation to provide some funds to pay certain obligations of the Township in connection with a legal judgment, and two, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $620,000 aggregate principal amount of general obligation refunding bonds and/or notes of the Township to effect such refunding and appropriating the proceeds therefor. And this is a public hearing on this refunding bond ordinance. If our CFO would please remind folks what the refunding the bond ordinance is.
Yes, a refunding bond ordinance is to issue a long-term debt with a $720,000, well, $620,000 aggregate for the principal amount of the note. It just repaying the amount the borough has already paid from the special appropriation that was done in the prior meetings. And this will help us pay for it over an extended period of time, so instead of paying it all at once. And the second part reads that it can also be a temporary note, so we can also do it as a short-term note temporarily if our bond numbers come out higher than we want it to be. So if the interest rates were suddenly to rise up, it allows us to do a short-term financing until the rates come down. That's basically what that is.
And this, again, this was for funding the judgment.
That's for funding the judgment, right.
Open up to public comment. Any comments on this ordinance number 9?
Jim Cowley, 201 Jackson Street. So this funding was with relationship to the affordable housing, is that correct, this deal?
Yes.
And that was because the township was sued by River Valley Realty or Merrick Wilson, is that correct? Okay, so it was not a lawsuit that the township committee initiated in any way, shape, or form, was it?
No.
Okay, so then you regret what you said that before, that the township undertook that?
No, I said we were doing the withdrawal to minimize our expenses. It was expensive.
Okay, so we didn't withdraw from this, we lost, and then you said you didn't want to pursue it, right? Is that
I
correct?
was withdrawing from tier
Yeah.
A and from here.
So the judgment that occurred was because we had an affordable housing obligation, and that affordable housing obligation was approved by Fair Share Housing, I believe in 2017-18, Gary Hoyer was president and myself, and we went through this, and the landowner is the same owner that has the high school property in Lambertville that they want to put 200-plus homes on, and we didn't think that that would be necessarily good for the township of West Amwell to have that run right into our boundaries, which is why we undertook a program to put 4, I believe 2 duplexes on that piece of property that he owned, and he sued us for approximately 8 years in every court he could possibly find and dragged it out until he could get his decision he wanted. And unfortunately, the committee decided to not pursue that because I don't think that that was a just decision when it was made. But obviously made the decision to withdraw from it. I just want to.
That's what I corrected. I withdrew from the Montvale affordable housing.
You withdrew from the Montvale affordable housing. Okay. So when this judgment came in, what was the option for the township at that point?
It was a jury decision.
It was jury decision.
So it was a jury decision. So
Yes.
you couldn't appeal that decision?
No.
I thought it.
Our council looked at it and numerous people in the same.
So I.
Looked at, and it would have had to have been on a technical,
Right.
Something that happened within the proceeding itself.
Right. So
And there was nothing they could find that could be.
So with the jury instructions, did the attorney review the jury instructions with respect to that? Because my issue was, and it should have been brought up by counsel at that point in time, was that if you have a piece of land and you can build on it, then it's allotted for each resident, right? So these are 2 duplexes, which means it would have been 2 building lots, not 4. This decision was 4. I'm just saying, I don't know what the jury instructions were. You're saying that the jury came back with the decision to make it 4. We don't have 4 pieces of property there that you can say, hey, each one of these parcels is worth X. It was basically going to be split into 2. So was that conversation had with the former attorney with respect to that decision?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I do not know what conversation was had.
Well, I think it would be incumbent when we're expending money, even though we lost, I would expect it to be at least a judgment that would be something that we could live with, that it was for 2 building lots as opposed to 4, when in fact it's 2. It just didn't make sense to me. But I understand the reason for the funding. And with respect to Fair Share Housing, did you make an inquiry with them yet? I asked you before to make an inquiry with them because
Yes, I
as a
did.
part of the process, they sign on to say that they will represent the township in defending their position.
I did send a contact to, I did.
You sent an email to them or
I
a letter?
contacted our affordable housing attorney, who sent this in Angela about that.
Okay, and so did she correspond with Fair Share Housing?
I believe she did. What I heard was that there was not going to be any
So,
assistance from that.
and that's fine. I just would think that this committee would need to be aware of that if there was a representation that was made and they responded to Attorney St. Angelo's comments about that, then the committee should have seen there should be some rational reason why they were not participating. You don't have that answer?
I don't have that.
So can you find that answer out from Travis
ask
Angelo? That'd be
them.
great, because I think the community should be informed on that.
Yeah.
She is in the works. She has, we all got the email. And
Well, the final judgment, but in terms of whether Fair Share Housing
Yeah, right.
support and fight that.
well, that's part of her reeval for the 3rd round and the 4th round. So that's all part of filing she has to make.
So as far as
So this isn't to do with filing, this has to do with this court case, right? So Fair Share Housing signs on to our affordable housing, and they say, when they sign off on it, that they're in agreement and they will help represent the township if in fact something comes up legally, like this, right? So even though we were fighting it in court with respect to the property, they should be defending or committing resources towards that fight, because that's what they obligated themselves to when they signed that. So that's what I'm asking. So
Yes.
Attorney St. Angelo should look into that
But
and find out.
But we have to pay for it. And
I understand.
part of that to.
I understand we have to pay for it. I'm not arguing that.
So that's, part of the understanding is that we are moving forward with that plan, and part of that plan is the purchase of it. So that is what needs to be reported, and then they
So-
accept it. So
so-
this is part of that process.
Right, so if I could just correct you a little bit. That parcel was already purchased with the $130,000 that was previously paid, right, to the courts for us to get that.
What was disputed?
That was-
Exactly, so that's what I'm saying.
We own the property.
Right, so we own the property, so it was the amount. And again, so
But there was still litigation.
the litigation ended with the judgment that we're discussing right now, that the court said that the jury gave this decision, it's the way they did it. Right, but
And then they want to know that we are funding it and what we intend to do with it. That's all part of the report.
that's all the fair share housing thing. But again, this doesn't say, I guess my point is that if you could just check with Tara St. Angelo, if she reached out to Fair Share Housing and said, listen, where are your dollars that you're supposed to be supporting the township when we were sued by this? They have an obligation that's in there to help defend it. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mike Spilly, Hewitt Road. I just had a question on the resolution itself, on section 4, it's on the second page. It says an aggregate amount not exceeding $124,000 may be allocated from the aggregate principal amount, et cetera, to pay for various expenses. It lists all the expenses. That's literally 20% of the total amount. So I just try to get some color on what section 4 is about. Why is this number so high? And what exactly is the $124,000 coming out of? That's it, the actual ordinance, the actual bond ordinance 9, section 4.
I think a good portion of that is interest that's been accruing. And certainly.
No, that doesn't say anything about interest. It's talking about using, this is 124, that's high. So I'm asking what exactly this is.
I think that's the language for contingent fees. But in our case, we don't have any. It's just purely the principal of the bond.
So why is this section here? It's
I think
saying
it's
that
just-
we're taking $124,000 out of the principal. That's what it says.
No, may be allocated from the principal.
Well, if you're not expecting any, why are we putting
I think
that?
that's just general language that is done because most debt has a contingency fund.
Well, you struck it.
But why don't you strike, I mean, why would we vote to say we're on the hook for $124,000 potentially? Why would we do that?
No, it says may be allocated from the aggregate principal amount
Yeah.
of the responding
But if
bond.
you're saying the number's 0, it should say 0.
Right, I guess it's in case there are some fees that have to be paid and it cannot exceed $124,000.
But that's
it should have
20%, that's 20% of the total, that's an insane amount.
Right.
Literally 20% going to legal fees and printing and, underwriting, that's not even close to accurate. As I said, I worked on Wall Street for years, that's not even a ballpark number. The numbers are like, sometimes basis points, they're not even percentages.
No,
So why are we talking
including
20%?
engineering fees and stuff like that, but that, for our case, this doesn't apply to us, so it shouldn't.
I would recommend that the board table this and look at it again. I mean, you didn't even seem to know that this was there, so I'm really concerned. This is, again, if it was $100, it was $10,000, I wouldn't be worried. It's literally 20% of the bond amount. So why would we open ourselves up to this kind of liability?
Well, doesn't the term may be allocated mean that it does not have to be?
And it may not exceed, is the, so we cannot go over that amount, and the contingent fees are usually set at 20%. That's where that number comes from.
I'll say in industry, 20%, crazy for a bond.
That's, for bonds, that's typically what the 20% is, and usually it pertains to what they see land, and there's engineering fees and other fees that are involved, legal fees. In this case, there is, it's purely payment of the things. Striking that line will not have any effect for us. So that would be fine if you
Shall
choose
we
to strike
amend,
it. Right.
amend it by striking that section 4? Or just,
You know, I have to ask the bond council.
So what
I
do
was
you
gonna
table
say,
this
you
to?
have council, where they're actually gonna have to issue.
No, that would be bond council.
There would be to some
Right.
extent, so, but it shouldn't be on the floor.
No, I'm not expecting any number from there because this is a very special, unique circumstance. And that number is probably just, yeah. We can do a subject to, it's,
You don't have to pass it tonight, do you?
no, we don't, it's not urgent, so table it. Why don't we table it for the next meeting? Because this one will not,
would this affect your short-term, long-term,
financing limit, for financing purposes, I have enough in the capital to cover it for the next 2 weeks. So that's not gonna affect the budgetary purposes, the finances of my department. What,
would it preclude some opportunity for lower rate financing that you're looking to?
it's possible, but in 2 weeks, I don't think I'm gonna have that problem. But
Our meeting's a month.
that's what I was gonna ask, depends on when the next meeting is.
July 15th.
Good. I think we'll be okay. It just pushes the issuance of the debt, because once the debt comes through, it's another 28 days. So it's just a timing thing. You said July 15th is the next meeting?
Unless we need it in the special meeting.
No, I think we'll be okay. I'll talk to the bond council tomorrow, I'll email them and ask them about that language and see if it's necessary. And if it's not necessary, we can strike it, but I believe that should not affect us in any way. And because it says may, was probably their way out when they struck the language.
So for now, you would like to table this? And
Yes, let's table it, that way we can get it answered, and then we can move forward on it at the next meeting.
Okay, until July 15th. Thank you.
So the public hearing on this is going to be July.
July 15th, we're going to reopen it for the public hearing with possible changes pending the review from the bond council.
Moving on for our resolutions. So resolution 84, 2026, which is amended. Resolution to endorse the Open Space Committee's efforts to identify and solicit partnerships with other organizations interested in Sauerland region protection for the preservation of the properties known as Block 12, lots 49, 32, 59, 28, 31, and 28.01 in West Amwell Township. This is the area on Rock Road West that we're
That is correct.
Do you have any questions? All right, I have a motion.
Do you want us to explain to you why we're back here with this revised resolution? Maybe the public might want to know. I don't know. Joel's our expert on this. He's the one that's doing
That would be
that.
great. The amendment is.
Yeah, it gives you, because we're changing it a little bit.
Just a minor amendment, it's the same property, it's just we realized that there are, I believe, 6 lots in this block. So I just wanted to make sure that all the lots were incorporated and covered, because the other organizations, such as the New Jersey Conservation Foundation, which is taking the lead on this, want to make sure it's all accurate, so I wanted to make sure that this is all accurate as well.
Thank you, Joel. Very good.
We have a motion to approve resolution 84, 26, and a second.
We just need to make sure they hear it.
Roll call, please.
Bell.
Aye.
Fitting.
Aye.
Boyer.
Yes.
Vanderbeek. Deal.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution 86, 2026, is that the one you would like to table for now? That's the fencing?
Correct, 26, yes. Please, sorry.
And 87, 2026, we are also tabling?
Can I just have some questions about it, real quick?
Got which?
About 20, or 87. So,
So I was approached by a citizen who said that he had, his automatic payment did not work. And it happened 2 quarters in a row, which was why he said that there was something wrong with the system. Although, and the first time it happened, the tax collector is correct that she investigated, did not see anything. The second time, I actually recommended that he de-enroll and then re-enroll in it. So I don't know if that fixed whatever there might have been, maybe there was some kind of a corruption in a profile somewhere. But that's what it was. And in retrospect, he basically, yeah, it probably was something that we really should have spent a little bit more time looking at, and the correct way of going about it was not followed.
yeah, that was my question, because from what I understand, the tax collector wasn't consulted. I don't think Maria wrote, who wrote the resolution?
No.
Who
Well,
wrote it?
I asked our attorneys to look at it and see, look at the statute and see what should we do in this case, because it happened 2 quarters in a row.
I think we should at least consult the tax collector.
And I'll own that, and I definitely would.
Secondly, it's always been our position to not offer refunds. I think it gets a little dicey.
And in a case where we could not figure out what and this was my rationale, and probably was very flawed, but my rationale was, it looked like it was a pattern that happened actually to another person last year. So,
It happens, it does happen, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I
But I mean, those monies just get rolled over into the next payment, right? Offering refunds opens up a can of worms for us, big time. And I just don't feel that we should stick with our policy of not giving refunds.
we have tabled this resolution. All right, so resolution 88, 2026, accepting the quote for Strober Wright roofing for Hewitt Park structures. This is for,
Why do we have to do a resolution to accept the proposal? We didn't write anything else.
Why is it dismissed?
well,
Do you know?
Wait,
So number 88,
Strober 88.
accepting the quote from Strober Roofing.
These came from the engineer, so I'm guessing our new engineer, this is how they do it.
But we did, for all the quotes that we got to date, I don't remember getting a resolution for any of them. Why this one?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but I'm just curious why now?
Why didn't we do a resolution on it?
I mean, we have, I don't know, half a dozen quotes in, and we didn't write a resolution for receiving any of them. I don't think we need to. I don't know why we're doing it now.
No, this was,
Came from the engineers.
correct.
But the title just seems wrong, because it's a resolution to.
Is it to approve it?
It's to execute a contract, so I think that the name of it is.
So it should be like the other one, awarding.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
It should list all the other people that sent proposals in as well, saying we got proposals from everybody else, and when you want to select.
Was this the one where they only got one proposal?
No, he got 3 quotes, it's
Okay.
stated in a whereas.
Okay.
All right, so we are looking at approving this. Okay, I kind of thought this was doing it, I just got thrown off by accepting a quote.
It may just be that they worded it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to amend the title to say awarding?
Yes.
Big difference in accepting a quote and awarding a contract.
Awarding the contract, it should be awarding the quote.
Again,
I'm not saying it's you.
so it's resolution awarding,
But even the resolution is written authorizing the acceptance of a quote.
No, it said township intends to execute a contract with Jordan Wright.
But I think, I don't want to get too technical and get down in the weeds here, but doesn't the title need to be right too?
Well, that's what we're saying, amending the title.
Yeah. Okay.
Amending the
All right,
title.
well, I mean, okay.
And then we have a contract for the roof replacement.
Okay.
That's the title that's wrong. So resolution awarding
He's
contract,
gonna talk to our engineer, and get that straightened out.
we can amend it, yeah, for tonight.
Just so we don't have to deal with this.
Resolution awarding contract to Sturgeon Wright Roofing Incorporated for the roof replacement of the pavilion, baseball field, dugouts at the park. So we have a motion to approve the amended resolution 88, 2026 with the amended title. Do I have a second? Can I have a roll call, please?
Bell?
Aye.
Fitting?
Aye.
Ware? Vanderbeek? Aye. Deal?
Aye. Our next resolution is 89, 2026, which is plenary retail consumption license renewal for I9G Corp. and his Ringo's Liquors at 394 Woodbury One. This is the renewal of the license for $2,500. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Bell?
Aye.
Fitting?
Aye.
Ware? Vanderbeek? Aye. Deal?
Aye.
Did he ever get squared away with the correct license, or is he still dealing with the?
He paid his fines, and everything's good.
So he's still just operating under the other license?
Correct.
Okay. So we still do have another license, I think, is available.
Yes, I believe we do.
That would be,
Retail distribution.
probably like to be used for restaurant, something like that.
That's what retail consumption is.
It is, I think, it is a little different.
His was a little bit more along the lines of like a.
He is around to.
So I still have my notes in here from 2020, and it says there's one license for the 33, which is a plenary retail consumption. The township can offer a 44 license, which is liquor store plenary retail distribution, which would allow him to do.
And where's that language, like, who said that that's?
This
available?
came from Katrina in 2020.
Yeah, so I'd be curious, because that is what the state statute's saying, that it's municipality, irregardless of population, can have one of each. But, there may be 1979, whatever, it may be a date that you didn't have it, you now have it. So I'll look into it. I mean, if it is available, then, we should put it out for interest. But I would get a legal determination on it, because we don't have it.
Is it a legal thing, or is that a corporate thing? Investigate that.
Probably legal.
Trying to save us money. Okay, that guy over there, we're gonna pay for it. You're
Plenary retail distribution. Plenary retail distribution.
I can email you if you want, like the language from the card.
So this was corrected, at least corrected.
Well, that's, I think, what the question is. The retail consumption is a restaurant, is you have to provide a product for someone to consume there. Retail distribution is to go.
We did have taps there at one point, and you could consume there.
Yeah,
That's what I understand.
They don't really do it anymore.
But it had to do with, you couldn't have shelving.
Can't have
out of-
product.
Correct, there were certain things you can't.
Yeah,
So it's more like a package store.
well, that, yeah, so there's, a retail consumption is allowed to themselves to go, but it is limited how they display.
Right.
There's a license called Broad Sea, which is definitely not available. And that would be akin to what you see at like ShopRite liquors, is where they can have a full bar and a full distribution. That is definitely not this license.
So there will be some investigation whether we have a third license that is available. Moving on to resolution 90/2026, which is application for renewal of the plenary retail consumption license. Number 37, which is the theater license exception. This is for music, mountain theater production. Incorporated. Roll call, please.
Bellum?
Aye.
Benning?
Aye.
Claire?
Yeah.
Enderby? Keel?
New business, item A, discussion of hiring an administrative agent for affordable housing. Our townships have Conway's municipal housing liaison by the administrative agent. The materials before you are what Lambertville has in place with the method they use, which is Triad. We can look also at other agents that are, but it may make sense to piggyback since they're getting shared service for their municipal housing liaison.
Well, this is somebody that Cindy is used to working with as well.
Well, correct, and the discussion is, we need to have an administrative agent in place. Like to move forward and authorize our clerk to move forward and find out what the arrangements could be made to be added to them as, or have us added as have them as the agent.
Since you want me to request a quote for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if that's okay with everyone, unless there are others that you think would be more appropriate, but they have worked with the city of Lambertville for quite a number of years.
So this is not a shared service, this is an agreement
Yes.
strictly with.
Yes.
That Lambertville is.
Correct, which we have to have. So that's okay, motion to authorize and we're getting a quote for this to bring it to the next meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
and all in favor? The next item for new business is a request from our DPW for authorizing replacement for Michael Pearson, who will be retiring on August 1st. An authorization request to advertise for the position.
You know, technically, we had an addition this year with the hiring of the supervisor, right?
Yes.
And another one is still needed.
Replacement, because we now have stormwater obligations there, he's going to need a lot of crew to do the extra work associated with that. He is also proposing a lower salary rate. A lower hourly rate, excuse me, for this position. Which will end up being about $5,700 less for salary expense.
Less than the
Current. So I need a motion to approve advertising for the replacement.
Can we put some numbers to this first? Can we?
Well, that was what I was gonna say. Have we done an analysis? A, do we need this person? I'd like to see something that we need to hire. Again, to me, we hired, there's one more person in that department than there was 6 months ago. Right? So, I understand someone's retiring, but that doesn't necessarily mean we need to replace them. We already did add.
So you would like me to have our decision, and that's fine. He, as I said, he mentioned to me that he would like to offer a lower hourly rate, which would save some money. I will ask him for justification what this person would be working on that.
I would say justification of the whole department as a whole, like, you know, why is another person?
I believe he is evaluating what whether their potential retirement is already listed as well. So he is evaluating that. But I will ask him for details. So we'll put that on hold for right now. I will ask him for more details.
Do you want it back on July?
Yes.
Or-
Yes, please. The next one is a possible ordinance to address data centers. Now, we currently have in our land use municipal code, chapter 109, in attachment 3, schedule 3, there is a table which lists data centers as a permissible use in highway commercial zone. And there's also a definition of data center in there. So this ordinance amendment would be to take that language out of that, so we do not have it as a permissible use, given there are so many concerns about data centers, cost, impact on the environment, impact on water, impact on electricity rates, etc.
So you're taking data centers out completely rather than stipulating larger than? Yeah, take it out.
Yeah, yes,
100%.
yes,
I think the sooner we do this, the better.
yes. So this would be a, if this is approved, we'll put it in on July 15th for a first, for introduction.
Who's drafting it? Or do you want the land use board professionals to draft it?
So our planner suggested that they have, can we bring Sean up?
Yes, if you
Sean.
wouldn't mind.
Um,
We discussed it at the land use board meeting last night as well.
So I don't speak out of turn. So the land use board talked generally about it, and we had the Delaware Township's ordinance, just as something to reference.
Right.
Not really that we would use per se, but just something to reference. Our planner, briefly glanced over it, saw some issues with that, obviously saw issues with ours as well, and suggested that he has drafted something, I'll say more robust maybe.
They have a model ordinance that Banish has already done, so, hopefully we can just take the model ordinance and change a few words as opposed to writing something from scratch. And our attorney also expressed concerns with Delaware's ordinance because he felt some of the whereas statements were too broad and could potentially be challenged, so.
Correct.
So we asked Mr. Banish to provide a copy of their existing ordinance, and we'll work with that as a baseline.
So that's essentially, he said he would send that on.
Yeah, and Marie, if we don't get something from this week, if you could follow up with it, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.
They provided to the several municipalities already.
Yeah, I agree, given our water constraints in town, we have to be really careful with this. I work in IT, so I've seen things full circle. In the 80s, when I first was a student and then started working, I saw, we had an IBM 3090 mainframe that had used $100,000 of electricity a year in $1990 and had water mains running through it. And then that went away, and then we had a whole bunch of little compact servers that took up 1/10 of the space and had a lot more computing power and didn't use water cooling, and now we've come full circle. We've got these much larger data centers again. So I do think it's something we need to look at. That's-
So hopefully we'll get that in and be able to have it for July 15th. then the next item on new business is discussion of recommendations of the Cannabis Advisory Committee. Which met to discuss originally June 11th, to discuss, to review the application from Ninja Growth Free LLC. We have before you the letter recommending approval of this application, and also the grid, which was filled out, and recommendations from each of the members who were there at the meeting, and some notes about their comments about the application, which were all positive. You want to make a comment, Eric?
You know, on the 8th of June, we listened to New Jersey Grocery's presentation of their application. They currently have an additional license with CRC. Mr. Esweiler has been a long-term Township resident. He's operated an organic farm for a number of years in the Township. Has grown hemp on the property, which requires a special use license. I have no idea.
Neither did one of his
I don't think
neighbors.
anybody did, including neighbors at the time. You know, the issues here are clouded a little bit in conjunction with the application came in right at the very end of last year prior to the adoption of the ordinance that was considered void as a result of the notification provision. And that ordinance would theoretically preclude this activity, given that that ordinance took residential zoning out and away from any cannabis-related activity. This is what's proposed here is a micro grow facility on a 54 plus or minus acre parcel that would have to meet all of the other conditions of earlier ordinances, more specifically related to what would have to be, what you would have to comply with in presentation to land use board. But as far as his application was concerned, he's gone through the CRC process, and the application to Cannabis Advisory Committee was reasonable relative to what's going to be done from a micro grow perspective. The committee heard it, was generally impressed with what they saw, and is making a recommendation to the Township Committee that the Township Committee provide a support, New Jersey Grow Free with support, in order that they now can pursue their annual license with the CRC.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I got a comment, I guess. So I'm concerned about the application in general. From what I have gathered, it looks like he, at his presentation to the Cannabis Committee, presented some structures that he's going to use for this farming, which is a modified hoop house with some polycarbonate pieces on. From what I've gathered, talking with our zoning officer and talking with the Hunter County Ag, he never got approval to put those buildings in place.
That's a lie.
So I encourage that we look into that, because from my records, zoning doesn't have anything, and Hunter County doesn't have anything. I don't know if he's a commercial farm or not. I'm still trying to figure that out. I would assume he is. He's been farming for a long time. But even if he he has to go, he has to go in front of our zoning to put the buildings up, or he goes to the county and gets approval to put the buildings up. Both authorities have said he has not done that.
That's a lot.
So I think we should just table this. I'm not for it, I'm not for it, I don't know if we can trust this individual. There's odor coming from the building now, and we're gonna approve further marking of it, and more so because it's full-blown marijuana, not just that. So I think I don't think we've done our due diligence with this application yet, and I think it's foolish for us to write a letter of support.
Aren't you a neighbor?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be recusing yourself entirely from
Why
the
should I?
discussion?
Why?
Well, I would.
I
so
don't know,
you-
that's Charlie.
I mean, well, then you guys want to pass something out of your due diligence, and that's on you.
So you contacted the county ag department?
The zoning officer did. I did not personally.
Did you ask them?
I said, does he have any approvals? He
Zoning
said no.
officer thought this should be approved, he thought it was.
Yes, and he said, he goes, since this application came in front of me, he was the one who actually brought it up. He goes, since this application came in front of me after the meeting, he's like, wait a minute, I recall a violation notice being sent to this applicant. I gotta look this up. And he goes, I couldn't find any approval for these buildings.
At the time of the meeting, he attended and provided his approval.
Yeah.
I understand, so, but you can speak to him if you like, but I think a violation is.
So you directed the zoning officer to contact the
No.
CAB on your behalf?
I did not. I said, do we know if he got approval? Because if he's a commercial farm, and he went in front of the county and got approval, okay, then that's a proper process. And I said to the zoning officer, I said, do we know if that was done? And he goes, I don't know. He goes, I can find out.
So Bob, do you live 200 feet?
From the property line?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, then you're probably clear yourself.
Okay.
Can we strike that from the conversation?
You want to strike that? No. You want to hide it? You want to push it under the rug? Are you serious?
You shouldn't be talking about it.
Are you serious?
Excuse me, I recuse myself from the.
I have no problem with
He
this.
should recuse himself from
I made a
everything.
comment of concern that this committee should look at before writing a letter of approval. If you want to silence my comments,
But I'm concerned that, the zoning officer had ample time to get back with the committee members and say there was concerns.
all I'm saying is table it, and do your research, that's all. I'm not saying, emphatically that they're very legal. From what I've seen so far, I believe they're very legal, but I'm not stating that emphatically. I just think that we should do a little more research on this before we write a letter of support.
Well, that's a little different tone, so I appreciate that, so.
You had a public hearing. How much more support, how much more research do you need?
I can't hear you guys.
Wait, I can't, why is he talking? You don't want anyone else to do that.
So before us is making a recommendation to finalize a formal letter to the CRC to approve this application. Well, based upon what I've read here, this Gary's very eloquent presentation of the details, all of the great comments that were presented by the committee members, that he is a local farm. There's been a lot of talk about not supporting farmers. He's been here for 30 years farming. There's been talk about from the public that we were against cannabis, we're choosing, this supports him.
Well, that was another thing, you guys are looking at, that the cannabis committee is looking at doing away and pulling back on the cannabis regulations
residents prior to any recommendation whether or not we pause or opt in or opt out.
Well, and there was support given to, when you were mayor, there was support given to GMNJ to go ahead to.
It wasn't a residential property.
No, but the support was, let me finish. The support was given to this, to the GMNJ to proceed to COC for manufacturing when they didn't have a CO and hadn't completed all the.
It's not a requirement.
No, but
There was multiple residential complaints about this.
So I'm just equating the two, that there's some questions and proceeded and.
But they're,
So the zoning is not in question here. The zoning, they still have to meet zoning. So
And that goes to the land use board.
they still have to go through the land use board. This before us is strictly about making a recommendation from this
potentially
body.
you're making a letter of recommendation supporting an applicant that could be in violation.
And the
I
same,
don't know why we would support.
Violation of what?
Violation of the buildings being on that property.
That's,
Which one proceed anyway.
So
And this is the very thing that you were fighting, but you're looking the other way.
no, you don't understand what we're fighting. That's the problem. Is you don't articulate what we use generalities to associate what we do and do not want. And I don't want to say we, but there are procedural things that we have issues with. This is a procedural thing that we've gone through the process correctly. This is the first meeting, hearing that the Cannabis Advisory Committee has actually had on an application.
It's only the second one, it's been the third one. No,
It
the
was the
second one.
first public hearing.
For public.
First
Public
public
hearing
hearing.
ever.
And there
In
was
the very first application, our resolution wasn't even placed to do a hearing. For the record, and the second one was a hearing done, wasn't public. But okay.
So I would like to finish my motion that we approve New Jersey Green, or make a letter of recommendation to the CRC to approve New Jersey grow-free application.
Well, we're not approving.
We're approving a letter of support.
And just for the record, I have heard nothing from Mr. Brodzanek about any
Any
issue.
concerns or issues? No, I have not either.
I'm not saying there are remarks, I guess that I haven't heard about them. So, and if, it's in there to read, but his specific comment, which came from email, was the applicant has demonstrated a well-thought-out, thorough plan for cultivation of cannabis. He's been a good neighbor and a productive farmer in the township for many years. That doesn't address at all what Mr. Dale identified as a potential permit-related issue. So I don't know. And he will still have to go through land use board and address those buildings and whatever permits are required.
So, do you make a motion that I do? Do I have a second?
Second.
And roll call, please.
I guess I can't.
Okay.
Not that it matters.
Fitting,
Aye.
Boyer,
I'll say I am.
Vanderbeek, Deal.
Aye. So, Maria, would you memorialize this in the letter that you will send? Or do we need to?
I can pull out the other letters and try something similar. And I'll work with you.
Right, great. Thank you. Next, under unfinished business,
prices that I gave you are for doing 2 different versions. Basically, doing the postcard to everybody, and sending them to the website, and then possibly printing 500 or 1,000 copies of a paper printed version of the newsletter that would be available at the Township, here at the Township Hall, and possibly at the depot. And then I wanted to reconsider this because we're looking at saving every penny we can everywhere we can. So another alternative, although it would delay things, this particular approach we could do right away, but we don't have to do it right away. There's no rush. I mean, we want to educate people as soon as possible. But the alternative is, when I was on the Environmental Commission, we used to do this stormwater regulation requirement every year, and it fit in a number 10 envelope, and we sent it out with the tax bill. So there was no postage cost, and the printing cost was probably about half of what, maybe a little bit more than half of what the cost would be for the postcards that I brought. So that's an alternative approach, and it would just mean that we would delay the announcement. We could still post the newsletter. It would still be available. People would find it on the website, but it would be delayed. The announcement would be delayed till August. So, and it would save some open space money.
You want to hear my opinion?
Yes, John, please.
I don't understand why you want to spend money on a postcard to tell people to go to the website. You talk about saving money, and we want to get this information out to them. It's an educational piece of paper, correct?
Yes.
I believe if you look at the way open space was designed, it was to educate people also on things. I don't understand why we just can't pull money out of open space, do the newsletter, send it out, so everybody here and in the township can read it, because it's not right.
Well,
I understand we spend so much time here talking about a newsletter more than we do on important things. I mean, come on, guys. You guys are just kicking the bucket around.
Well, I prefer that approach.
Well, then what's wrong with it?
Send a 6-page newsletter out by mail and then every.
Why don't we do it? What is the cost?
What's that cost?
$1,800?
Yeah.
We have $1 million.
Right.
Two, maybe. I don't think
But everybody here at the table last meeting said, let's try and save some money. So.
Well, yeah, but didn't our CFO say we're putting money here for bad money here?
Well, John, at the end of the day, whether it's $50 or $5,000, you want to try to spend our money wisely, right?
But
we have the money in open space.
We have the money, and that newsletter is so important.
Let me make a case for that, because I feel like if we send out the printed copy to every single person, they'll have a copy, they'll have a cup of coffee, they'll read the whole thing. If we send them to the